So it's a fallow weekend in the Six Nations, and I want to take the time to do a deep dive analysis into England. Obviously their massive win against France, results wise, but I want to see what is the one huge improvement that I think they made and the one big vulnerability, and also take time to go through a load of freeze frames illustrating from particular incidents in the game as to why this is the case. Now, of course, there were lots of other improvements and vulnerabilities. For example, vulnerability-wise, the line-out throwing with Luke Cowan-Dickie wasn't so great. We had goal kicking from Marcus Smith, and then things that went well. The one-on-one tackling was excellent. The scrummaging's a lot better than what we expected. But let's really dig down into the weeds, into the tactical stuff, and see what we can learn. Hopefully you'll find this interesting. Maybe it's something you either didn't see or you did see. But either way, I really enjoyed putting this one together. So do enjoy, do like, do subscribe. That would be awesome. Welcome to this video, supported by Sports News Blitz. Let's get stuck into this footage. Now, of course, when I say footage, I mean stills. I'm not going to use moving footage because you run the risk of copyright strikes, and I've been building this channel for 10 years, having fun with it, and I don't want to lose that now because of that, but hopefully it's going to be really illustrative all the same. Now, we'll start with the weakness, the vulnerability, and finish on the positive with the big strength. Now, the one area of weakness that I see from England that really stood out to me is their transition defence, their scramble defence from two incidents in the game. The first one, I'm pretty sure everyone will remember, and that is the Dupont drop with the try line at his mercy. So what actually happened there, and what did England do wrong to get in this situation? France, yes, did a lot right, but also England could definitely have stopped that opportunity. If he caught it, it would have been a try. Would have, could have, of course, but no, it's definitely one they could have snuffed out. Now, this chance for France actually stems from an England attack, a really promising attack in the 22 of France. But as Lawrence shrugs off some tackles, Ellis Genge falls off his feet trying to clear the ruck and gives away a penalty. Damien Penaud is quick as a flash, taps and goes. He knows that England have to retreat 10 metres before they make a tackle. They can't touch him until then. Penaud actually steps outside of Itoje, which puts Itoje on England's left. That's going to be important later. And Finn Smith is the first guy in place to make the tackle. And first point is how good a tackler Finn Smith actually is. One-on-one, he probably is better than George Ford, better than Marcus Smith. So that's a really strong point from this game, actually, even though I'm looking at a weakness here. Now, of course, we know that all sides are most vulnerable from transitions, but I just want to show how England are a little more vulnerable than others, and this one really highlights it, I think, and definitely an area where they need to work on compared to, say, a side like Ireland, who are very good at scrambling, and England need to improve this spatial awareness, situational awareness, and communicate a lot quicker. So as we can see, most of England's players retreat to the short left-hand side of the pitch, their left. Now, apart from giving away the penalty, Ellis Genge actually does a second error here when he gets up off the ground. Instead of going open, he goes blind onto the left where the majority of forwards are, and they actually need desperate help on the right. Itoje's just been stepped, so he's now on the left. Penaud and Finn Smith are engaged in a tackle, of course, but when Finn Smith gets up, he actually goes left after the tackle where he doesn't need to be. And you can see all the England players looking inwards, where really the red alert should be out to England's right, where France are so dangerous. That transition flash attack, especially their backs, are very good at doing this. They're very quick, but England aren't really aware of that yet, and no one that we can see in frame is communicating anyway. So then the alarm bells start ringing as Dupont breaks and passes to his left to Jalibert. They've got the flyers, Barassi, Biel Barry, no direct opposition. Ramos and Dupont, they're flying up in support, and England had at least time to get one, maybe two more players on that side, and maybe they could have just backtracked a little bit and stopped it certainly before halfway. So here we see Luke Cowan-Dickie, Slade and Freeman in pure scramble drift mode, and to be fair, these three do pretty much everything right. They're just outnumbered. Slade is very good at this sort of defence. He's not a big tackler, but he reads the game so well. He's quick enough to get around the pitch, and he's very fit. And this is in contrast to actually his centre partner, Ollie Lawrence. We'll come to that later, but Slade does really well. Luke Cowan-Dickie, they don't commit to the tackle until they have to. Freeman's backpedaling, knowing he's in trouble, and again, they are not committing to the tackle. They're waiting to the last minute. Tom Curry is the only left-side defender who is trying or physically able to get across to help. Cowan-Dickie's actually done really well to make up some ground, and he's looking very fit at the moment. Anyway, there's a big gap, and the supporting Ramos can then take a pop off the well-tackled Biel Barry, and through he goes. Marcus Smith is back covering a possible kick, so he can't get there in time to do anything meaningful. We see Finn Smith, who was out of position slightly, but he's recovered fairly well. But Dupont is simply quicker than Finn Smith, and he outstretches him, and of course he probably should take that catch. But the point is, when they're in that set-piece alignment, England are actually pretty good at defending, head-on-head tackle, and certainly in the Ireland game we saw they drifted very well, maybe not quite so well in this France game. But when they are caught in a transition, I really worry because teams know they can be hurt. They're not very good at communicating, getting position. They're not the quickest at covering the ground either sometimes. Now, England's next opposition, Scotland, pride themselves in this sort of attack, so England needs to be on red alert and really practice this quick transition defence and certainly the communication and organisation. So incident number 1 was more of a team organisation thing. Incident number 2 is more based around 2 individuals and one in particular, and that's Ollie Lawrence. He's definitely improving in some areas. For example, securing the ball is much better. He's not losing it so much. His one-on-one tackling's a lot better, but his awareness definitely still needs to improve. On the turn, he can be quite slow, and he definitely loses his pace over a long distance and starts blowing towards the end of games. And this was kind of a good example of this one. That centre partnership is probably the best that England have at the moment, but there's a reason why I say I'm just not quite fully happy with the pairing, and this situation highlights it. So England have just gone 1 point up, and there's only 7 minutes on the clock. Finn Smith clears long, and England have plenty of time to organise the chase, and get in position where France really shouldn't be finding many holes. Finn Smith again showing good ability to cover ground, chases his own kick, and France have to start from their 22. As we can see, Finn Smith and Henry Slade have double marked Antoine Dupont, and he really shouldn't be able to get away from them. That leaves Ollie Lawrence, who should be looking around for the only immediate danger, which is the winger Penaud out wide. Instead, he fixates on Dupont facing inwards and not really aware of Penaud out wide, it seems. Lawrence maybe is taking a bit of a break because he's struggling to get up, but he's in that definition of rugby no man's land. Dupont feints left and jinks back to his right, and he sees that Penaud is unmarked and floats a pass over Ollie Lawrence's head, and he has got absolutely no chance of making it back. He turns very slowly. You can see him trailing back pretty slowly, so he's essentially out of the game, so it was almost no point him chasing up. We can see that the pace of Bernal has got him across to block Penaud, so he grubbers ahead, but it's just too long, and from this screenshot we can see that Ollie Slightholme has got the pace to get there first. He's got both hands out, and he really should be taking this ball. Now, it's not easy, but it's one that an international winger really should take. Now, don't get me wrong, Ollie Slightholme did a lot of good things in that game. His cover across to stop Biel Barry was absolutely fantastic, and he counter-attacked off that, so he's got loads of potential, but this is something he needs to improve, because he pulls out of it a bit as he sees the looming contact instead of really putting his body on the line and just accepting taking a bit of a whack. So what happens is he half pulls out trying to take the ball with him, but in the end he doesn't, and he spills it, and eventually Biel Barry scores as England are in complete disarray. So if we call the Dupont drop a play that should have been a try, the conclusion is both of these incidents could and should have been dispelled by better communication awareness and really a bit of experience. If England can make these tries less common, they can get more big wins in the future for sure, but at the moment they are still a bit vulnerable there. So now let's get on to the good stuff, the massive improvement that I saw from England in this game, and that is the attacking shape, the attacking threat. Of course, Finn Smith being at 10 really helped, but having both Smiths really helped, and having that Northampton connection I think really helped. So let's have a really deep look at Freeman's amazing try. Yes, there was brilliance from Freeman there, but I want to show you that England are definitely improving their attacking shape and have lots of variation and threat. The try actually comes from one brilliant attacking flow, no real pause in play, and it's straight from a kickoff when France have gone 7-13 up. So England tuck their scrum half Alex Mitchell on the right wing to allow Freeman a free run at the ball, and all teams include players who are fantastic in the air like Freeman because it's such a weapon, especially we're seeing it from kickoffs more and more. Now the Finn Smith drop kick is perfect, it just gives Tommy Freeman the right amount of time to run onto the ball. And also here's a funny freeze frame that shows that all teams, including England, are mainly ahead of the kicker when the ball is kicked, and it's something that the refs aren't really hot on at the moment. They know it's happening, but because everyone lets it go, they let it go. So I wonder who's going to be brave and call someone back for that. Now this is something I'd love your opinion on. The team receiving the kickoff will often have a clean-up catcher behind the lifting pod in case they miss time or misposition the lift. In this case, it's Gregory Aldrit who rushes up to get in position quickly when he realises it's going his way. But also it's true that sometimes teams deliberately mislift the jumper to kind of shield the catcher behind, and actually all the time that's the catcher who's going to get the ball. I'm not sure which one this is, if it's a bungled lift or some sort of deception, but Freeman sees through it or gambles, one of the two, and he goes to the ball dropping behind the lifting pod and steals it off Aldrit, and he offloads to the aforementioned Mitchell. So Mitchell makes a decent run, making ground up to 15 metres out. And guess who's back up playing scrum half? Yes, it's Tommy Freeman. Now here England get in shape very quickly. The front row are waiting as a pod of three. The freshest of the three, recent sub Finn Baxter, takes the ball and importantly bashes a metre beyond the gain line, getting a bit of momentum straight away. Cowan-Dickey, Stewart, they're instantly on the scene, of course, to secure the ball and to stop two French players trying to contest the ruck. Although Mitchell is back up, Freeman's there a little bit quicker, so he just plays scrum half once again, and you can see a perfect attacking setup. This one looks fantastic. Both second rows have folded quickly to the left after the initial run from Mitchell and offer a bit of a decoy and an option, and they hold that drift defence a little bit. Then we see the Smith-Smith access set up exactly how they want it, with Marcus Smith taking the ball and the danger runners of Ben Earl and Tom Curry perfectly positioned to attack the midfield. And then we have the whole of the English midfield, Finn Smith, Ollie Lawrence and Henry Slade, perfectly positioned as a second line of attack for the pull behind. But they don't pull the trigger on that, the setup is still perfect, and Tom Curry powers over Cyril Bailly and makes another extra metre as they carry on going to the left. The French forwards know they're out of position a bit, so they fold three players very quickly around that ruck to mark up the awaiting English backline. It looks like the general plan is to go with the flow and give the awaiting backline a chance to attack themselves. But another Curry, Ben Curry, is offering a nice inside line, so Finn Smith hits him. Now both Smiths know good game awareness here that all the forwards are being used up and both of them have to go in there and ruck the ball, which they do very nicely. Now we see another bit of smooth attacking flow as England centres wrap back around to the right, but Martin and Earl wrap back to the left to replace them and keep defenders fixed. Mitchell has a dummy break to the left and then he goes back to the right, making more crucial metres with a break himself. Now we see both attacks and defence desperately reorganising off the cuff because England have moved the play from all over the pitch with multiple types of threat. Now with Mitchell once again at the bottom of a ruck, we see Marcus Smith this time pop into scrum half, and Finn Smith finally has the chance to scan the situation. Aldrit, Barassi, they're waving their hands desperately to try and get numbers back the other way. We see Tom Curry again as one of the go-to ball carriers as he makes more yards off a tired French defence. Indeed, the whole setup of France hasn't been able to put in a single dominant tackle and a backtracking. It's not that they're tackling badly, it's just that they can't get those shots and England are going forward and moving them about. Now is the crunch time. After such a long attacking set, the England attack itself is now out of its rehearsed shape, and we can see that their attacking options are down to a couple of individually positioned runners, which means you could get isolated and also probably slow the attack down. Here's where Finn Smith makes the big call. I think he spots Ramos heading back across to England's left as he expects the flow to go back this way, but with BL Barry completely flat, this gives a good size area for Finn Smith to put a perfect chip crossfield kick into. Now in game I was wondering who was calling this play, but I think it's Finn Smith actually, because he's into his kicking action before Freeman sticks up his arm, but Freeman gets there just as the kick is made, so he's nice and flat. But France are a tough nut to crack and BL Barry is very agile and quick on the turn, and he nearly gets there, but Freeman has momentum and the height and the handling skills to take it beautifully two-handed above BL Barry's head. But just like from the kickoff, Freeman shows great awareness to do something else on landing, this time sidestepping Dupont and piling over the line. So in summary, this was a beautiful team attack with a little bit of everything. We had kicking, aerial skills, but great team shape and flow, and the two Smiths working in tandem. Though momentum was always high, they were changing the points of attack. This is exactly what you want from a high-level attack, and even then you needed perfect execution to score against a top-level team, so I absolutely love this try. Now lastly, to highlight the improvement in England's attack, let's have a look at Elliot Daly's match-winning try. You may have seen this analysed before, but I think it's really good to have a look at, and I certainly enjoyed looking at it myself. Firstly, it's worth noting that Jamie George and Ollie Chesham made a huge difference to the line-out when they came on. George is one of the best line-out throwers possibly ever. Chesham is a fair bit quicker getting into the air than the other second rows and has great hands. and this made a big improvement in England's attacking launch plays. And indeed, France competed very heavily on almost all lineouts in the game, and earlier they disrupted quite a lot. And the fact that they were competing meant that they couldn't get a decent counter drive straight away, and then either by design or chance, all of those French forwards were then committed to try and stop that maul momentum. Add a funny wheel as well, and we can see that the French are very much out of position to break off that maul, although Mitchell does have to come around a little bit and does very well. But in essence, the result of this means that Dupont, who's now at fly half, has to mark the potential break off the maul before he can drift out to the main danger, which is the English backs. Now, also a point that has to be made is when Elliot Daly came on with 5 minutes to go, we actually saw Slade come off and Freeman go to 13, which is something we wanted to see, and we saw it, and he had a part to play here. It was interesting that they decided to take off Slade, who is maybe the better passer than Lawrence, but under extreme pressure, Lawrence executes his handling perfectly. As the ball moves out to Lawrence, we can see Tommy Freeman hitting a hard line outside him, a very believable decoy line, and it holds Barassi very nicely, and Lawrence pulls the ball back to Finn Smith, who is now outside Barassi slightly, and he just has to wait long enough for Biel Barry to make his decision. He still has Marcus Smith to worry about, so he can't really bite in too early, plus there's a winger on winger further out, so he decides to stay on Marcus Smith and hope his drift comes to the rescue. Finn Smith takes the ball flat to the defender, which he's so good at doing, and pulls the trigger to the trailing Elliot Daly, who has timed his run perfectly, mostly by tucking in behind the maul, not telegraphing his move open, and keeping his opposite winger having to mark blind. And then even Antoine Dupont's speed cannot cover behind in time to make the tackle, Daly's fresh legs showing good acceleration to slice through and make that score. And this play just shows how all the variables in attack and defence, plus substitutes, positional changes, all came together to make the match-defining moment, and that's why we love the complexity and excitement of rugby. So in short, one big improvement can make is their transition defence, and one big positive was their shape and attack and how unpredictable it was, and how they attacked in lots of different places, shifting the point of contact and executed perfectly with that Smith attacking shape. Now, England still have a bit of improvement to go, and I feel there's a few players still to come into this team, but I feel that buzz coming back. But can they back it up at home to Scotland? I can't wait. And finally, if you want to win a fantastic prize like Kyle did here from my starting lineup, then all you need to do is predict what the starting lineup will be for that Scotland game. And if you get it right, you go into a draw with the other correct entries, and that's actually a bit harder than it sounds. So if you get it right, you're in with a great chance. Carl was the only guy to correctly predict a lineup from England or Wales correctly. He chose the Wales lineout spot on, and he goes to the Lions captain's dinner with Martin Johnson, Alun Wyn-Jones and Sam Warburton, plus a night's stay at the Vale. Fantastic prize. That's available every single round. So if you want to play, register on my starting lineup using the code RugAN1 to say I sent you. That would be amazing. And also they're offering a free play to get you going to see how easy it is. So get involved, register RugAN1 and get your free play to see if you too can go to this Lions dinner. Anyway guys, that was a longer one for a fallow week. I hope you found it interesting. Do like, do subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.